Hi, welcome to the End of Life Journey and Beyond, the Sands of Time. I'm Lisa Strahs-Lorenc, and I'm a Bereavement Specialist. Hey, Susan, how are you today?
Hi, Lisa, and welcome. Thank you, everybody, for joining today. My name is Susan Capurso, End of Life Doula, and a legacy specialist and author, among many other things. But today we have a special guest, and I'm so excited to introduce to you Tim Kennedy, who is on the board of the National Aging in Place Council here in New York. And he has a lot to share with us about those resources, among others. And Tim specializes in mortgages and reverse mortgages. And what do I do now when you're in a situation towards the end of your life? And I can't wait to hear what Tim has to say today. Thank you for joining us, Tim.
Thank you, Susan, and thank you, Lisa. It's a pleasure to be here this morning. Thank you for inviting me to be on the call. As Susan had said, I am on the board of the National Aging in Place Council, which is a great organization. What people don't understand is, you can get advice or help from anybody, but what's nice about the National Aging in Place Council is we're all vetted. There's an interview process, there's a background check process. So anybody and everybody that's in the National Aging in Place Council is somebody you can trust and refer to. And that's why I've been a part of the group and on the board for the last year or two. I think I'm with the National Aging in Place probably 5 or 6 years now. But, I use everybody in the group. Susan and I have worked together. I've worked with the elder law attorneys and the financial planners. I've worked with the realtors. I've worked with the home care specialists. So this is, it's all encapsulated into one group, like a one-stop shop for what you may need, especially later on in life, or if you're experiencing something, in like a change in your life. And that's kind of why we're on this call today.
Yeah, and it's important, as we age or in this baby boomer explosion that we're about to go through from this day moving forward, we have parents and we have grandparents, and where do we get the help? We need the resources that are out there. And that's why this conversation is so valuable and can help so many people. So Thank you again, Tim, for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. So I was just on the phone with a client of mine, and just so happens her husband had just recently passed away. And prior to him passing away, we were talking about doing a reverse mortgage. Now, one of the biggest misconceptions about the reverse mortgage is it's a last-ditch effort, to keep the senior homeowner in the home. And the truth of the matter is that's the furthest from the truth. Today's reverse mortgage is really a tax-efficient retirement income tool to help the senior homeowner age in place and maintain financial independence. In this particular situation, the husband had passed away. And she now had lost his pension income. She has little to no money in the bank or any type of savings. Actually, she keeps saying to me, yeah, but Tim, I have, $20,000 in a bank account and I have a $7,000 somewhere else, and she goes, and I'm fine. I have enough money to pay my bills and put food on the table. And I kept saying, yes, I understand that. I said, but what we need to do is prepare for the now what or the what if. And that's a lot of times what people forget. We put our head in the sand and we forget that things can happen, right? For example, Susan and Lisa, I talk about it all the time. 65 to 70% of us are going to need some sort of long-term care later on in life. So if you're in a room or a networking event, count the heads, right? We were at an event the other night. There was, 100 people in the room. 65 to 70 of those people sometime in the future is going to need long-term care. And how are they going to pay for that, right? I know, Susan, what you do for a living, and Lisa, what you do, helping people with loss, okay, is tremendous. There's a lot going on, right? They're sad, they're lonely, they're angry. There's so much going on, so many moving parts. And the other part of it is the financial burden. How are they going to move forward, right? And the part of the National Aging in Place Council is we're all there to help them, right? The financial planner. You know, what are they gonna do with the money if they have any money, right? You know, they just worked 30, 40, 50 years accumulating wealth. You know, how are they gonna disperse that wealth now, right? Elder law attorneys that can help them preserve the equity in their home with a trust, an irrevocable, revocable trust, right? Home care aides and health aides that can help people stay in their homes and maintain their daily life, right? And then what I do for a living, I'm a certified reverse mortgage professional. I'm one of maybe 150 in the entire country, educating and promoting the reverse mortgage to people like yourselves, professionals like yourselves, on the benefits of a reverse mortgage as a tax efficient retirement income tool, using that housing wealth, using that equity in their homes to maintain financial independence, especially after a loss. You know, how are they going to maintain what they have? Or, maybe they need to downsize or right size, whatever that case may be. You know, they need to make tough decisions after that loss, not
Right.
tomorrow.
So for example, I love the example you just gave us about the woman, right? She lost her husband. She had $20,000, but she thinks she's okay.
Well, you can burn through that in a minute. Yeah.
Oh yeah, in minutes. So how did you roll with her? What was, give us an example of what you suggested her next moves be.
So she wants this. So the biggest thing now is what do you want to do? Okay. And I know both of you have experienced loss, knock on wood, right? I haven't, right? But what is your next step? What do you want to do? Do you want to stay in this home? Do you want to move? Do you want to move out of this state? Like, do you want a puppy? Do you not want a puppy? Like, there's all these things going on, right? Like, what do you want to do? And the first question I always ask is, is this where you want to stay? Is this where you want to live? What are your goals? In her particular situation, she's very lonely. Even the family she has doesn't really communicate with her, right? She has a niece somewhere in Nassau County. I'm probably the only one that talks to her, and now it's gotten to the point when I do speak to her, we don't even speak business, right? She talks about her dog. I talk about that's why I brought up the puppy. We just got a new puppy. So we talk about the puppy, but it's, I'm really just having a conversation with her because that's what she wants, that's what she needs, but she will stay in that home and she will eventually make the decision to take out this reverse mortgage. Not that she needs it for anything, but it's really just the safety net, the use of that line of credit to have access to the equity in that house for if and when she needs it for the emergency, right? She's not getting any younger. She's not getting any healthier. At some point in time, she may need, to renovate the bathroom for handicap accessibility. She may have to put a ramp up to the front door. She may need, 4, 5, 6 hours a day of home care, or maybe maybe sometime in life 24/7, right? With a reverse mortgage, with the access to that home equity I call housing wealth, can help her achieve those goals, especially now since she's alone.
So in this particular case, Tim, I'm sorry, Lisa, is her house paid off?
Her house is paid off, yes, paid in full. So we're not paying off any type of mortgages.
Okay. So, but that's not always the case for everybody, though.
No, right? It's not always the case. Okay.
When they look for a reverse mortgage. Right.
So two things can happen. If she had a mortgage on her home, we would pay off that mortgage. So in her situation, let's use an example. Her house is $500,000. She qualifies for a $250,000 reverse mortgage. She has no mortgage to pay off. So in essence, she has a $250,000 line of credit that she has access to. And here's the best part of a reverse mortgage that nobody really understands is that line of credit has a guaranteed growth rate factor to it. So as it sits there, because she has no intention of using it, right? But she's going to need it eventually because she has no other funds. That line of credit actually grows as it sits there. So in 5, 10 years, it could be 260,000, it could be 275,000, it could be 300,000, right? Depending on, how much longer, she stays in the house and how much longer she doesn't, access that line of credit, right?
Like
if she, I'm sorry?
Like a safety net?
It's just a safety net, right? It's like a life insurance policy that she can use while she's alive, right? If she had a mortgage, for example, Susan, $100,000 mortgage, she still qualifies for $250,000. We would pay off the $100,000 mortgage, and then she would have access now to a $150,000 line of credit.
So Tim, you need to explain to people, because once my husband died, it was clear I wanted to stay in the house,
Mhm.
but there was no way I was going to be able to do this on one income. So I took
Yeah.
a home equity line of credit
Okay.
on my home. So now explain to people and to me the difference then between the home equity line of credit and a reverse mortgage.
Okay, great. Actually, Lisa, that's a tremendous, phenomenal question, and thank you very much. So here's the difference between a home equity line of credit and a reverse mortgage line of credit. The home equity line of credit you took out, we needed to run your credit. We needed to run your verify and prove your employment. We needed to appraise your home, which is normal, right? It's not FHA insured. If, for example, the biggest thing is you're obligated every month to make a monthly payment, okay? And the last thing, which nobody understands or can even comprehend, because it may not have happened to you, so to speak, is if there's a downturn in the market, the bank can do one of two things. They can reduce your line of credit, right? Let's say, for example, you qualify for 200,000. There's a downturn in the market. They can say, nope, oops, Lisa, you only have access now to 50,000. Right? And or they could shut it down completely. Okay. So it's always the case, right? When you need the money, you can't get it, right? You only get money when you don't need it, right? And that's exactly what happens with these home equity lines of credit. When there's a downturn in the market, like there were, at the beginning of COVID, right? Lines of credit were shut down or reduced. Back in 2008, 2009, when the mortgage collapsed, all that stuff was shut down, okay? With the reverse mortgage line of credit, if you're over the age of 62 and you own a home, you could qualify for a reverse mortgage line of credit. What happens? Well, we're still going to run your credit. We're still going to look at your income, but it's more of a financial assessment. It's not a strict debt to income ratio or strict FICO score. It's really at the end of the month, can you demonstrate the ability and the willingness to pay your bills? It's financial assessment. Secondly, you're more than welcome to make monthly payments, but you're not obligated to make a monthly payment. If you want to make one, great. If not, doesn't matter, right?
Wow.
It's federally insured. That means if the mortgage company were to go out of business, the federal government is guaranteeing that you still have access to that line of credit for the duration of your life, provided you're paying the taxes and insurance on your home. Okay. Financial assessment. Oh, and the most important part is it can never be reduced or shut down, provided that you're living in the home as your primary residence and you continue to pay your taxes and insurance. So for example, if there's a downturn in the market and your $500,000 house is now only worth $200,000, but you have a $300,000 reverse mortgage line of credit, you still have access to that $300,000 line of credit, and it's still growing. It still has a guaranteed growth rate factor to it. Okay, so that's the most important part.
So then when you sell that home, you're paying back it as a loan? How?
So you're only paying back the portion of the reverse mortgage that you used. So for example, the woman that we just talked about, she has a $200,000 line of credit. If she never touches it, okay, doesn't have to pay it. Now there are closing costs involved, right? So I don't want to minimize that there are closing costs. I'm just trying to keep this simplified. But she would pay back the balance of the closing costs plus whatever accrued interest. So for example, 250,000, 15,000 in closing costs. She has a $235,000 line of credit. If she took out the reverse mortgage today and decided to sell and move to Florida next week, she would pay back the $15,000, and then any remaining equity in the home goes back to her. Just like it was a forward mortgage. I'm sure both of you heard this. A reverse mortgage in 4 simple words. It's just a mortgage, right? So at the end of the day, when you sell your home or the last surviving spouse passes away, the balance of the reverse mortgage that you used or spent, plus the accrued interest, needs to be paid back. And then any remaining equity in the home would either go back to you for selling the home, or if the last surviving spouse passes away, it would go to the children or to the estate. Right? Got it. And Susan, you asked before, like, what type of conversation did I have with this particular client? What a lot of people don't understand are there are 18 risks that can derail retirement. And that's what I was explaining to this woman. I mean, she already experienced, right? The first one, the loss of her husband, right? And dealing with all of that, right? But the other big one, the other biggest risk is longevity. We're all afraid we're going to live longer than our money, right? Inflation, right? Political change, right? What's going on in Washington, D.C., right? Especially when those changes occur. A lot of times, and it's not talked about a lot, but after a loss, there's depression and mental illness, dementia, all that stuff. I'm talking to this woman today. She said, I went and walked the dog. Okay. And she tripped and fell in a pothole. So, what would she have done, if she broke her ankle or broke a hip? How's she paying for that? And that's kind of what I talked to her about on why having access to that housing wealth or the equity in that house would give her so much peace of mind.
Peace of mind.
Right.
That's huge.
Yeah, that she can sleep at night. Just sleep at night, relax. And if you need money in the morning, you make a phone call and it's wired into your account, right? She keeps saying, I don't know what to do. My nieces and my nephews, they don't call me, they don't help me. I said, well, that's more of a reason to create this so you can make your decisions on what you want or what you may need, right? Based on the wants and needs. It doesn't sound like she wants anything, but she may need something in the future, right? She's living a very simple life, right?
Now I have two questions for you, Tim. The first
Sure.
one being, this sounds like a wonderful, wonderful thing. Are there any negatives that stand out to you for somebody to think about doing this? That's the first question. And then, is this national? Do the rules pertain to every state? We're in New York. So is it just for New York that the rules apply to, or how does that work?
So I'll answer your second question first. A reverse mortgage, a home equity conversion mortgage, is a federal product. So the guidelines come from FHA and HUD. So you can get a reverse mortgage in any and every state, including the District of Columbia, right? But each state does have their own little nuances when it pertains to a reverse mortgage. So for example, in New York, okay, there's a proposal package that we need to review with the client first, right? Then there's an application process. And then there's counseling from a third-party independent counselor. What the state and the federal government feel is that me, Tim Kennedy, is financially motivated to have you take out that reverse mortgage. So they inserted this third-party independent counselor that will review all the paperwork with the homeowner. But to be honest with you, when they're done with me, they know more about reverse mortgage than the counselor does, but I'm okay with it, right? So, and in New York also, which has only been since the beginning of COVID, signed by the governor, Governor Cuomo, they now are required to have an attorney at the closing table. Okay, but that's only in New York, right? And again, it's all about protecting the consumer. Protecting the consumer on two sides. Number one, protect the consumer against themselves, because sometimes we're our own worst enemy. And the second part of it is protect the consumer from predatory lending, right? Because and again, I happen to talk a lot about the senior community because that's what I focus on with the reverse mortgages. But where's I going with that? But they are like the most sought after demographic, right? Because they're so vulnerable. So the federal government and state governments, and even the local governments for that matter, have done a lot in the last 7 to 8 years to protect the consumer.
Wonderful. So in any state you live in the United States, the best thing would be to get that attorney. Would that be your first step, or to look for somebody like you to get the ball rolling?
I would recommend them, if they're looking for a reverse mortgage, to go to the National Reverse Mortgage Lenders Association website. I think it's narmla.org, and look for a certified reverse mortgage professional. Okay, we take, for example, to qualify for for the CRMP designation, I had to close over 50 reverse mortgages, have more than 3 years of reverse mortgage experience, I believe it's over 20 hours of continuing education classes. I have to take 8 hours of continuing education classes each year. Every 3 years, I have to take a 3-hour ethics class. And to get the designation, I had to take a 120 question exam, which blew my socks off because I haven't taken an exam since college, you know. So it's not an easy process, but somebody looking for a reverse mortgage, I'd recommend that if they're going to get a reverse, make sure the loan officer is a certified reverse mortgage professional. Here at U.S. Mortgage Corporation, we're licensed in 48 states, including the District of Columbia. So have them call me. You know, I can handle any state.
So you would actually help, you know, I have an aunt in Florida and say she wanted to do something like this. You would recommend the person in Florida, or you could handle that situation?
I am licensed in Florida.
In all states?
And then U.S. Mortgage is licensed in all states. Okay. So I would be able to work with the loan officer in that state from U.S. Mortgage and help them with that loan process. Yes.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So you don't need to go find an attorney and look for an attorney and not know what kind of an attorney to get. I would say that in the case of if you're interested in a reverse mortgage or doing something like we're talking about today, would be to start with you.
And then I could point them in the right direction. 100%.
Each step of the process and make it simple. Now, getting back to the question about anything negative, I don't think you'd tell us, Tim, but who would this be a negative?
So let's go back to my favorite quote of the day, right? A reverse mortgage, in 4 simple words, it's just a mortgage. So do you both have mortgages on your property, on your homes? Okay. Yeah. So every month you make a mortgage payment, the balance of your reverse mortgage goes down just a little bit, right? The principal goes down just a little bit. With a reverse mortgage, okay, it's a negative amortization. What that means is every month that you do not make a mortgage payment, that balance of your reverse mortgage is going to go up a little bit, right? The balance is going to increase. So for example, let's talk about the woman I spoke about today. When she's done with the reverse mortgage, she's going to have a balance of $15,000. If she never makes a payment and she never takes the money out of that other $235,000 line of credit, that $15,000 is going to grow, it's going to increase, right? So there is a point in time, sometime in the future, that the balance of that reverse mortgage could exceed the value of that home. And that could be considered, I'm having a hard time saying that. That could be considered negative, right? Because then there is no more equity left in the home, maybe no legacy for the children, like money in the house. But what
she can live till she's 99 and
spends all the money,
right? Children, right?
Right.
So that's how I always thought of a reverse mortgage. You have nothing left to leave your children.
But what they've done the last 7-8 years, they've done a lot to protect the equity in the house. Number one, they've reduced interest rates. They've reduced the amount of money you could actually borrow up front. Okay. They reduced the monthly mortgage insurance. So the balance of that reverse mortgage is growing at a much slower pace than it did, 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago. 20 years ago, you were 62. We lent you 75% loan to value. The interest rate was much higher. The mortgage insurance was much higher. By the time you were 72 and you needed more money, there's no more equity left in the house. Mm-hmm. Okay, now, for example, at 62, you would qualify for 45% loan to value. So if it was a $100,000 house, we'll do easy math, $100,000 house, they would qualify for 45%. So they could qualify for $45,000. And then what we did is 45 times 60. We're saying you could only take out $27,000 on day one. And the balance of that $45,000, they would not have access to for another 12 months. So what that's doing, Susan, it's protecting the growth, it's protecting the equity in the housing wealth by the balance that they're borrowing is growing at a much slower level. So the truth of the matter is, unless there's a tremendous downturn in the market, okay, they may never reach the point where the balance of that mortgage exceeds the value of the house.
But what if they do? So say you're 90 and you're still going to live 9 more years, and
Okay.
now you've used all that equity. Do you have to leave the home?
No problem. She's 90 years old. She probably lived in that house now for the last 30 years without having to make a mortgage payment, live there rent free. That's the other part people forget. Like, she's not making a mortgage payment, but she's living there for free, right? So here's the flip side to the reverse mortgage, okay? So now she's in the house. The balance of the reverse mortgage exceeds the value of the home. As long as she's living there, as long as she's paying her taxes and insurance, she can live there forever.
Oh,
Okay.
I like that.
Okay. And here's the best part, Susan. A reverse mortgage is a non-recourse loan. So that particular woman we're talking, the 90-year-old that has no more equity left in the house, she will leave no debt to her children or to her estate because it's a non-recourse loan. What that means is
It dies with her.
Nobody's personally responsible for the debt.
Wow.
So the balance of her reverse mortgage is $500. Her house is worth $400. They sell the house. The mortgage company gets their $400,000. That other $100,000, the federal government's responsible to pay. Not you, not the children, not the estate. It's a non-recourse loan. The homeowner will leave no debt to their children.
No,
Now,
that's
a silly question, but it's a question. What about if the person now can't pay the taxes and insurance? Can't keep up with even that.
Well, let me ask you a question. If you stop paying your taxes and insurance today, what will happen?
I just thought a miracle would happen because it sounds so good to me already.
Yeah. So that's life. If you're at the point now where you can't pay your taxes and insurance, you're going to start getting some nasty phone calls and some nasty letters in the mail. Okay. But, communication is key. If you're communicating with the servicer, okay, and giving them, apprising them of the situation, whatever the case may be, they will work with you, okay, because they don't want the house either. It's a lot of work. It's very expensive. They would much prefer to work out an amicable situation where everybody benefits, right? But listen, if you can't pay your taxes and insurance,
Right.
that's a problem.
can't be there.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Lisa, were you going to ask another question? I thought I saw you.
No, these are just important options for people, especially when they're trying to figure out the kind of life they want to lead.
Yeah.
Us as widows or people who are trying to see options.
And
It's
this
very
is a
important.
topic that really so many people don't know about. So that's why we were so appreciative to have you here to clarify a few things and make it simple, for people to understand.
Tim, can you give everyone your contact information?
Sure. So I want to thank both of you for having me today, and I really appreciate you thinking of me because I'm in houses every day of the week, speaking to that one spouse that lost their spouse, a month ago or 10 years ago, and it's real. It's an everyday occurrence. So I want to thank you for having me on your call today. But again, my name is Tim Kennedy. The name of the company is U.S. Mortgage Corporation. I am a certified reverse mortgage professional, a CRMP. My phone number, my cell phone is 516-729-6040. 516-729-6040. And again, I want to thank you all for your time. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you for
Pleasure.
coming today, Tim. Thank you.
Pleasure,
Right, thank you.
Tim.
Lisa,
Really
Susan,
important
thank you.
information. Great seeing you, Tim.
Hi, guys. Have a great week.
Great work.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.